Hi everyone, welcome to the AstroLaunch podcast. I'm your host Amy, and today I'm really excited to talk to our amazing guest, Colonel Elisabeth White, a deputy commander for the Space Base Delta 3 at the Los Angeles Air Force Base, and learn more about her experiences about getting into this role. Hi Elizabeth, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Amy. Thank you so much for asking me to be a guest on your podcast. I'm extremely excited for our conversation today to tell you a little bit about myself and why I joined the military. And I just think it's so amazing, Amy, that you are leading this podcast and providing an opportunity for young engineers like yourself to really engage and learn more about the exciting things that are going on in aerospace.
No, it's an honor to have you on the podcast. I'm so, like, your job sounds so cool, and I'm so honored to have you on this podcast and being your host tonight. So, to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your job?
Yeah, sure thing. My name is Elizabeth White. I'm currently serving as the deputy commander at Space Base Delta 3. We are located here in sunny California at Los Angeles Air Force Base. I'm coming up on 24 years of service within the Air Force Reserve. My background is primarily focused on acquisitions, so that's procuring systems such as satellites and launch vehicles for the war fighters. Outside of the military, I'm a mom to two children, Henry, who is 7, and Avery, who is 12. And I'm also married to a commercial pilot, Damien. He is my better half. And we actually met in the military, and he flies for Delta right now.
Oh, that's so cool. So, what inspired you to pursue a career in the military service and space?
Yeah, I think it's probably twofold. I was introduced to the military through my dad and my brother. They both served in the Navy. And I remember during high school, I had the opportunity to go visit my brother while he was serving in San Diego. And so I really got to see firsthand the importance of what he was doing as an officer in the US Navy. And I was just really taken back by his professionalism, with his knowledge of how to manage a ship as a surface warfare officer. And I fell in love with California, quite honestly. San Diego is just gorgeous. And so that really brought me the opportunity to pursue the military. I decided to join the Air Force, and I did that. I just felt more comfortable with the Air Force and with the opportunities. And I was able to get my college paid for through ROTC, through a scholarship at University of Minnesota. And I think on a deeper level, coming in from a family of 5 siblings, I was always looking for an opportunity to set myself apart, and take on a challenge. And so the military has really provided that opportunity.
That's so cool. Like, it almost relates to myself because like my dad is an engineer, which is what persuaded me to also do engineering. So I feel like I can connect to you through that. But as like a deputy commander for Space Base Delta 3, what is your core mission and what does like a day in your life look like?
Yeah, so my purpose here is to really remove any type of roadblocks for the 7,000 employees that work here at Space Systems Command. 7,000, including military, that's the Guardians, the airmen, civilians, contractors here on base. And so, working with my squadron commanders, we make sure that we are providing exceptional installation support, that we are providing them medical care, that the base is secure through our security forces, and that they have the communications in place in order to execute their mission.
Mm. And like in doing all of this, what do you think is the greatest challenge you've faced early on in your space career?
Yeah, I think coming into the acquisition career field, it is definitely set up apart from more of the traditional rating career field, especially in the Air Force. My first assignment was here at Los Angeles Air Force Base, working on launch vehicles and certification. And so, it was a challenge to communicate what I was doing because some of the programs that I worked on were classified, and we couldn't really, convey the importance of what we were doing in order to acquire these capabilities for the warfighter. So that provided a challenge. I think also too, Los Angeles Air Force Base. Not a lot of people know this base exists, and so when trying to communicate that to my family or my friends or my other um, officers that are in the military, it was always a challenge to let them know exactly what we're doing out here. But I think we've come a long way with trying to make sure that we are communicating the importance of acquisition, and that without us, we're not able to fight wars.
That's so true. Can you share like a defining moment in your career that solidified the importance of space for you?
I've had the opportunity to literally travel all over the world within the military. One of the most defining moments was in 2007 when I was working up at Vandenberg. I had the opportunity to be on the operations floor, and 14th Air Force at the time was responsible for monitoring all of the satellites in orbit, and making sure we were deconflicting any type of conjunctive problem. And during that time, I had the opportunity to witness the 2007 Chinese anti-satellite. And so that was an extremely defining moment in my career, because it was a time when we went from a benign environment, one where there wasn't a lot of adversary action, to one that is extremely competitive. And so that was defining in that it really provided me the sense of urgency of the importance that I do within procuring acquisition services.
This is so cool and inspiring, and I feel so proud to be talking to you right now because you serve for our country. But now, talking about your job itself, why is the international cooperation in space critical now than before?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so before I was the deputy commander, I was able to serve as the military deputy for international affairs here at Space Systems Command. It was a phenomenal opportunity to work with our allies and partners on procuring space technology. The Space Force in general is the smallest service when you look across the board from other military services. Yet the space domain, is the largest. And so, in order to make sure that we can be the guardians of the highest frontier, we need to make sure that we are working with our allies and partners. It's a very important mission set. It's codified in our highest strategy under partnering to win. And, our allies and partners, they bring a different perspective when it comes to technology. They're located in key areas. Their geography provides that competitive advantage, and also they can provide additional resourcing.
What are the biggest hurdles in coordinating space strategy between the nations?
I think I alluded to this a little bit before with some of the challenges of being in space acquisition, and it's communicating, what we're doing, especially we're working on these crown jewels, these sophisticated satellites that take years to engineer. And there's a lot of important intelligence that these satellites provide. So compounding that of bringing in allies, it's challenging because of some classification restrictions that we have. I'd also say that working with allies and partners can be challenging when it comes to forming consensus. So when you look at the Department of War, just trying to get certain programs approved is very difficult for the Space Force and the Air Force. But then you bring in allies and partners, and it can be challenging as well to make sure that you are agreeing on requirements, that you're agreeing on the technical capabilities, and that you're pooling resources effectively.
So, how would you simply explain the difference of the core missions of the Air Force and the Space Force?
Yeah, so when you think about the Air Force, the core mission is to fly, fight, and win. It's air power anytime, anywhere. You compare that to the Space Force, The Space Force's core mission is to protect our interests in, to, and from space. So we do that primarily through organizing, training, and equipping Guardians. They're very different mission sets, but they're unique and similar in many ways. The Space Force, again, is coming from the Air Force. And so, there's similarities, but differences.
I see. This is so much more new information which I wasn't familiar with before because I didn't really like knowing, even though I'm like part of aerospace classes and stuff, even I was really confused about like Air Force and Space Force and the different categories that it has, but this like really clears things up. But
Oh, that's
now,
excellent.
no, yes, I'm learning so much more information right now. But as both of us being women and both of us like wanting to, or you're actually pursuing a career in a main dominated field, how have you navigated leadership and like helped lift other women up?
Hmm. Yeah, so it's been a challenge throughout my career. In fact, even yesterday, I was in a meeting and I looked around, and there were 30 people in the meeting, and I was the only female,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
And this is now what, my almost 24th year of serving. So it's definitely a challenge. I think even when you continue to move up the ladder, it becomes even more challenging to see other like-minded women in the room. But being cognizant of that, I've been able to really try to, provide opportunities for other women to succeed. During an assignment at Maxwell Air Force Base, I really identified a gap in the curriculum and a gap in the community when it came to, studying women, studying the history of women, and what we provide when it came to many different wars and the importance of our role. And so, it's identifying those opportunities. And I was able to put together a women in leadership forum, which connected, us all together. And so providing that tribe of women to really communicate other types of similar challenges that we're facing, and to really empower us to get after the change that we need in order to be successful for the future.
I totally feel you when you say like women in male dominated fields because in my aerospace class there's 35 boys and only 4 girls. And this is like more of a question for myself, but like I sometimes doubt myself because there's so many guys around and it feels like they have an advantage to things because they I don't really know like a lot of assignments or competitions we do, they seem to do better and that really demotivates me. So like something for myself, like how do you deal with when you feel demotivated because everyone around you is so different?
Hmm. Yeah, so exactly. So yesterday when I was in this meeting, I had many things running through my head, right? One is imposter syndrome. I think Sheryl Sandberg in her movement of Lean In, she really talks about this, of doubting yourself. As women, we doubt
Yeah.
our voice, we doubt why we're in the room. But I had a choice to either be silent in the meeting or to speak out, and I chose to speak out. In fact, I think the individual running the meeting kept on calling on me because of the importance of what I was saying. So, my advice to other women is to really lean into your voice. You have power in your voice. We see things differently than men, and it's important to share that perspective.
What is one skill that you think is the most critical for the next generation of space leaders?
Hmm. Wow. The Space Force has the Guardian value. And the Guardian value really centers on 4 types of traits. The first one is character. The second one is connection. The third one, commitment. And the fourth one is courage. I think those are all really important traits to have. The one C that I think is missing is creativity. I
Mm,
think creativity is extremely important for the Space Force, because the Space Force is the newest service. And I think we have an opportunity to really look at things differently and change the way that we are projecting power, whether it be, our processes, our culture, how we're bringing in the next generation of people. I think we need creative minds in order to lead the way. And I'm really inspired by the next generation.
I'm sure that this segment of the podcast will truly educate and inspire the next generation of women leaders as it's inspiring me and I'm learning so much more on how to not doubt myself and how like being a woman in a male dominated field is like on its own a really big thing and we should all continue to do it. So I'm really hoping that all my female viewers are able to get the same lessons that I'm learning right now. But what do you think will define the next decade of military space operations?
I think right now, when you look at the space domain and you look at the Space Force, I think we're on a precipice of significant change with leveraging that creativity, that commercial industry right now. Looking back at my career when I first started in 2002, the military was really focused on building everything by themselves pretty much. It was a one-off. It was these huge satellite systems, long procurement cycles. And so right now I am really encouraged by the focus on leveraging commercial technology to really rapidly deliver these critical capabilities.
I see. And what are some emerging trends or technology in the space domains that excites you the most?
Mhm. Just living here in Southern California, I am energized every single day as I get out and engage with the community and talk to new founders about, what they have in mind in terms of, colonizing Mars or with harnessing different types of materials or you know, minerals from the moon in order to, improve our overall health and well-being. It's just phenomenal. I think rather than looking at a technology, I'm really just excited about the mindset and the shift in, the innovation that exists right now. And I think it's through, building out our commercial industry and especially the integration, deep commercial integration is something that really excites me. Moving away from these siloed systems to making sure that we have interoperability, not only in the space domain, but across all other domains.
And if there was one piece of advice that you could give to your younger self, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say that stop and smell the roses, really enjoy the journey and don't be so focused on the destination. I look back at my career and I am so thankful. I'm so blessed to be where I'm at today, but it took a lot of sacrifice, especially being in the military. We sign up for quite a bit and it comes at a cost. And so I moved away from my family in Minnesota and I moved away from a lot of friends that I had. And, if I could do it all over again, I think that I would prioritize relationships and prioritize my overall well-being more than what I have.
No, this is some really great advice that a lot of other people and the viewers watching could also take. But I'm just curious, like myself, like how you got to where you are right now, because I know nothing about like military or like the Air Force base. So like what are like if you could like guide like our viewers who want to pursue such a career, like how would you guide them?
Right. So joining the military is a privilege, it's an honor, and it's really selective too. And so for the younger generation, if you're interested in learning more about the military, I would highly encourage that you reach out to someone like myself, or perhaps maybe a friend or a family member or a colleague who served. With going into the military, especially on the officer side of the house, there's quite a few different commissioning sources that you can pursue. The one that I did was Reserve Officer Training Corps. It was a ROTC program through the University of Minnesota. And, that provided me a scholarship. So I didn't have to take on any student debt. And it provided me the training and the leadership that I needed before I was commissioned. There's other tracks as well. going to the academy is another wonderful opportunity. And that's one that you need to definitely make sure that you're communicating to, your leadership, whether it be like your senator or your congressman, to make sure that you're going to get a really good letter of recommendation to go to the academy. And then also there's officer training school, which is like a 10 to 12, 16-week program where it indoctrinates you into, the core skills of the military if you already have a degree. And so there's many opportunities where you can learn more about the pathway to join the military. I'm happy to provide more information. So please, personally reach out to me, and I'd love to tell you more about my story.
So you were like decided on after high school that you want to join the military?
Yeah, I think it was really my dad and my brother that spurred me on to want to serve in the military. I was really motivated after I got back from visiting my brother in San Diego and just seeing the immense amount of leadership that he had on the USS Harper's Ferry. And up until that point, I hadn't really thought about it seriously of joining the military. And so it was just through seeing him in action down in San Diego, I was really inspired to research it more myself. And so during college orientation, I went around and talked to all of the ROTC detachment commanders, and I found an opportunity with the Air Force.
So like every time on like Instagram or something, I look at military videos that come on my page. They go through immense like training. So like did you also have to go through that training and the whole process?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So through ROTC, I went through 4 years. And so, in addition to all of the credits that you take to get your undergraduate degree, you have to take more credits with Reserve Officer Training Corps. So, it required physical training. So, like once a week, we would do PT. And then it required leadership lab where we would come in and we would learn something about, military doctrine or strategy. We would learn how to march. We would learn more about leadership. And then we would have, a class once a week as well. So this lasted about 4 years. And after your second year, you go to field training, which is pretty much the equivalent of boot camp. And, it's anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And that's really where you're tested. You're tested physically, you're tested mentally, making sure you really want to do this and you're capable of doing it.
So like for the test, like not everyone passes or everyone moves
Yeah,
on.
in order to become an officer, you have to take what is called the Air Force Officer Qualification Test. And so, it's similar to like the ACT or the SAT, where it's really testing you on your math and your reading. And so, yes, you definitely need to take that test, and you have to score a minimum of, level in order to be considered to become an officer.
Oh, I see. This is so cool. Like listening to all this, like I feel like I'm so grateful talking to an officer who's like serving for our country. Like I always like saw movies on this and saw other people, but I can't believe that I'm talking to someone and I'm so grateful to do this. And this was such an insightful and inspiring conversation, hearing about your journey into the military service, your leadership in the international space affairs, and overall, like your work that's shaping the space operations was truly really impactful. And I learned so much from your perspective, and it gave me a greater appreciation for the importance of the global corporation and strong leadership in this field. I'm so grateful you took the time to do this and share your experience. And I know that our listeners will take key details away feeling just as motivated and empowered as I am.
Thank you so much, Amy, for reaching out. Again, I am just truly honored to be on your podcast. I am so impressed with your leadership and with your interest to go into aerospace engineering. We need more people like you, Amy, who are really creative and who are really wanting to make a difference in the engineering and science world. So thank you so much, Amy, for this opportunity. I look forward to working with you in the future.
No, thank you so much for coming, and I hope that we stay in contact.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who joined us for today's episode. I hope you guys learned something new and felt just as inspired as I did. Make sure to join me next time for another amazing conversation that inspires curiosity and learning. Till then, explore, engineer, and elevate. See you next time.